So here we go, Wormhole Introduction class. So basically wormholes they differ a bit from k-space, so the known space like null-sec or high-sec or low-sec, in that there's no local. So if you're just reading along, AFK reading might be a bad idea, because you can't really see when enemies come to you. So usually if you're null-sec and you're just reading, you'll see local that someone's approaching and you'll see it in the intel channels. Wormhole space differs a bit that you don't really see if there's an enemy around with you, not even in system, or you don't really see it until they decloak on you. And I was trying to do that the other day. So I was watching someone who was doing relic sites in Wormhole space and just sitting with him for like 10 or 20 minutes until he got to the last data thing and he finished it. And I was warping down onto him, and just in the last moment, like I think 3 kilometers away, my ship decloaked and he actually saw that I was with him. I don't know how he reacted. His ship was fit quite well, so he eventually got away. But that can happen to you all the time. And it's not like in null-sec or high-sec that you get some intel in advance. So you have to be on your toes all the time. And what we already also have is that there are no gates. Like in known space in GE, you can take the gate to Victor Tech 3, from there to Bravo Tech 3, and so on. In wormhole space, you need to map that all out yourself. Right? For wormhole corporations, there are tools like Tripwire or Pathfinder. You can also join us for some day tripping. I will mention some groups later on in this class. But to actually get into wormhole space, you need a ship with probes. So you can use the scanning menu and do that little scanning thing to actually track down wormholes, as you do like with exploration as well. And from there, you get into scary space. So another major difference that our wormhole connections, like the wormholes connect one system to another, one wormhole system to another, and they also differ vastly from the known space connections that wormholes can change. Like, there's not always going to be the same connection from GE Tech to Victor Tech 3, but it might change that one day you might have a connection to GE, one day you might have a connection to JITA, or another day you might have a connection to deep into Goon space. They may evolve over time, so some last a bit longer, some last shorter. Usually that's around 24 hours. When we jump through wormholes, it's important to first check if that wormhole is reaching a certain stage where we should not jump through anymore. For those listening to it later, we're currently sitting on a wormhole and opening its description. What we read here is that the wormhole seems to lead into unknown parts of space. So with that, okay, that wormhole is going to connect me into wormhole space. And the unknown parts of space is a lower class. We will see others where there's like a dangerous unknown parts of space. So, that's a higher class. But usually all the wormholes are dangerous. When you're flying through wormholes, you might also encounter wormholes that lead into null security space or high security space. Then we have some more information that with this one, that's a pretty standard one. This wormhole is beginning to decay and probably won't last another day. That it lasts like between 4 hours and 24, or some wormholes even up to 40 hours. That's pretty safe. Just jump through, and if you can do your thing in the wormhole, be there for a couple hours, come back, and you're pretty safe. If it mentions the wormhole is reaching its end of life, then you should be a bit cautious, because it could break down any moment. If you see it going to that stage, okay, I've got like 3 or 4 hours maybe shorter. But if you don't know when it went from a normal wormhole to it is an end-of-life wormhole, then it might be any minute. So when we go into wormhole space, we will first look at the wormhole description to see what state it is in, and if we might need to be cautious. So we have another line here that says the wormhole has not yet had its stability significantly disrupted by ships passing through. That's another property wormholes have, that they only can fit a certain mass through it. So with frigates like we currently use, you're pretty safe. But if the wormhole, if its description says it's getting critical, you, again, might be cautious because you might be jumping through it and it collapses behind you. Usually, wormhole people use that to either say, okay, we want to kill this connection because either the wormhole next to us is not really nice, we don't know what to do with it, or maybe it's a scary one that we want to get rid of because our neighbors might be a little bit stronger than us and we don't like that. And the last line of description we see here is up to medium-sized ships can pass through this wormhole. There are some wormholes where only frigates can pass through, some where cruisers can go through, and some where even dreadnoughts or carriers can go through. Now we got all the people on the hole. What we can do now is jump through it, and the important thing is when you jump through the hole, you have to say so please do that now. You might hear a wobbly, wobbly, wobbly sound. When you're in wormholes, you can sit on them, being cloaked, and through that wobbly, wobbly sound, hear if other people go through. Bookmark the exit wormhole, like name it exit or, but don't lose it. Because if you lose it and you don't have probes, you are stuck in wormhole space, and the only way to get back is to pod yourself. So make sure you bookmark the wormhole right now. So the first thing you might notice is that local is gone. First rule of wormholes, don't talk in local because that gives away free intel to other people. So right now we know we're like 3 or 4 people here sitting on the wormhole, and you only give them intel, they don't give any intel to you. What we want to open first is Dscan. That's one of the most important tools you have here in wormhole space because that shows you where uncloaked ships are. So if you open Dscan now, you can scan. Probably best use the maximum range and the maximum angle. And tell me either through voice or in fleet chat what you see.
Rattlesnake.
There's a rattlesnake, yep. But I think that one is legit. He might be a bit scared right now because of us. I hope not. All right, so we're gonna skip this wormhole and directly go to a more interesting one.
Normally if you do see a rattlesnake or ships on a wormhole, it's scary, but we have control of these holes, so it's a little bit safer. That's a friendly rattlesnake, by the way.
All right, please take fleet wall. I hope you all have the wormhole bookmarked. What we're going to do next is, when everyone has landed, we're going to jump into this, that's a C-13 class, rather big one. And we're going to test our probing skills a bit in there, maybe find some other connections, and from there continue, depending on what we find. And here we again first look at the wormhole's description. Its stability is normal, the lifetime is pretty okay, and with this one we have only the smallest ships can pass through this wormhole. That means frigates, so we should be all good to go. So again, jump through please. And there again, the first thing we do is to bookmark the exit wormhole. Just right-click on the wormhole and save location. And after that, you probably want to hit Dscan to see what's around you. So let me know what you see on Dscan. Yep, we got a magnet here. Derndelic, is that you?
Nope, the buzzer's closed. I can get Confessor or try to scare it away or something.
Sweet. So we might actually be onto something here. So what we're going to do next is to play around a bit with the probes and the probe scanner. So you can open the probe scanner by Alt and Papa. And what you should see there is on the left side a window where there are some anomalies and some cosmic signatures. And on the right-hand side, you see a solar system where all those are listed in 3D space. What I would suggest for now is, while you're scanning through the wormhole, to go to the left-hand side, and above the scanning strength, you should see a window where you can filter. In there, go filter out the anomalies, because we already know where they are, and we don't need to find them right now again. I'd say, as you're already all pretty familiar with wormholes, just go launch your probes and scan around a bit. If you're listening to this later, you should have a ship with probe scanners, and those probes you can launch. And you will see them on your probe scanner that we just opened with Alt-P. And in there, you're going to see a little probe menu where you can move your probes, where you can adjust the probe size, that they are spread further apart or closer. And what you eventually want to do is to first start with a rather big size, depending on your skills. That might be 16 AU or 8 AU. Once you perform the scan, you will see that you might have hit, or you might have found some signatures with a certain strength. So that might be, for example, that you find the signature SGR with a strength of 20%, or the signature WCK with a strength of 5%. And from that point, you want to pick one, probably the one that has the strongest signal strength already, and then work your way in. So you're going to find the signature, put your probes on it, and move them in closer, scan again, move them in closer, scan again, move them in closer, scan again, until you eventually get 100%. So if you start to find some sites, there are a couple different types of signatures that we have. One of them, for example, are wormholes. There are other that are gas sites. Those two are pretty safe to warp to. The wormholes are usually safe to if there's no one camping them. Gas sites, you can warp to them, and that will start a 20 minutes timer. So they might be triggered already, so you first want to warp in that range to see, hey, is that site good? Can I go do some gas huffing? If you don't know what gas huffing is, just ask that in Dojo later. If you see some data or relic sites, there you might have to be a bit more cautious, because there's some sites that have sleepers in them that will just blub you away. If you see sites that have like frontier barracks or secured perimeter in the name, you might want to be more cautious. If they sound like sites you have seen in nullsec, like Sanchez, Angels, whatever data site, you can safely warp to them. Those are just like regular nullsec relic or data sites, and go do your stuff with them. But in general, it's better to just warp to them at 100 to see what's there and get out if it's too scary. And if you don't know what to do, always be hitting D-scan, so you see if new ships arrive. If you do some more day tripping in the wormholes, there's some ways you can organize your wormholes. As I mentioned already, they disappear after 20 hours or less. One way you can do is to put like a date tag into the description. So what I used to do is like call it exit 2018 08 29. So I know, okay, that's from that day. And if I come here again in a month or so, I know that that one is not existing anymore. But then I can just reuse it as a safe spot. What you can also do is just call it exit or wormhole or whatever, and later go into people and places. And there you will also see, if you expand that window horizontally, that you see a date when that bookmark was created. So you can later go there and just say, okay, I want to delete everything that's a month old or older. All right, so we completed the first step. We got into wormhole space. We learned some basics about local and bookmarking exits and how to probe things down. What we see in this wormhole, that there's an Astrahus, or two Astrahus and one Rider room. What I suggest we do for now is just check out those things, if there's someone living in them, if they're vulnerable. Maybe we're going to do a little frigate bash. So, yeah, put your drones and then warp yourselves to, what is it called? Pyongyang? There's a Fortisa. And make sure to warp at range.
And if you see it in the D-scan menu, you can warp to it from the D-scan menu.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, you can do that too. Learn something new. Does that also work with pauses?
Yep, but you have to get them on D-scan menu. So
yeah,
the
that's
funny
not
thing
too
is,
difficult.
yeah, but your probes also pick them up. So even if you're outside of D-scan range, your scanner probe will show it on your D-scan menu.
So what you can do is if you jump into a wormhole and you see they have vortisers up, to go check the vortiser, from there find their cooperation or alliance, and then go check them on Zedkill. So you know if they're rather active, if they're more like the PvP type of cooperation, or more like the PvE type of cooperation. And from there you can get a bit of feeling of how dangerous those inhabitants might be. If you walk to that vortiser or the Astrahus or the Rideru, you can also see if there's some people inside it that might come defend their home. So for living in wormhole space, you can either decide to make it the day tripping thing, so that from day to day you might join it and you dive into it but still live in Brave space, or you can eventually decide to make it your permanent home like I did a few weeks ago. So if you just want to get the feeling of how it is to be around in wormhole space, to get a bit accustomed to it, what you can do is just do some exploration. So you go through the chains in Catch, and if you find a wormhole, you just pop into it, scan around a bit, and see if you find something nice there, or leave later on. What we also have are some special interest groups. For example, Brave Hole Divers. So for those listening to it later, that's #brave-hole-divers. That's the Slack channel on Slack. That's what I started with in the beginning. So I just said, hey guys, I want to join you on some writing fleets in wormhole space. They have some prepared fittings, and it's pretty much the same IS per hour like you would get with incursions, but it's way better comms, and you don't need that expensive skills, and you don't have to sit in waiting lists for hours and hours. And the guys are pretty chill as well. They stage from GE Tech. You can just join their channel and ask them, hey, what's going on? Do you want to do some wormhole writing? And they're going to help you to get the first steps and make some pretty good ISK in there. Yeah, there's another pretty good thing you can do, another reward for you. There's a 10 million ISK bounty on C5 wormholes connected to Catch. So if you're doing your exploration down the Catch chains, you might want to take an eye on scanning down wormholes as well, and jump into them and go check if it's a C5 or C3. So we haven't covered yet what different types of wormholes there are. So I mentioned C5, there are some C3s. The basic stages of the basic classes of wormholes are C1 to C3. That's like the lower classes, the unknown parts of space. And there's a C4 to C6. That's the dangerous parts of wormhole space. And it basically just means the reds are stronger, some effects might be stronger. There are also some other special classes like I think Shattered Wormholes, and there's one called Thera that has like super many connections, and also Sisters of Eve Station. So it might be an interesting point to maybe take an exploration trip to. If you want to get that bounty, if you find a C5 or C3, if you find a C5, you should put that into our Pathfinder system. If you do that, then just ask again in Dojo or in the Brave Hole Divers Slack, and they're going to help you from there. There's some tools that help you with getting around wormhole space, and especially mapping down the chains of different wormholes that are connected to each other. One of them that Brave uses is Pathfinder. And basically what those tools do is you put in some systems, and then you fly into the next system, and it automatically detects, hey, you're in the next system. You connect the signatures that you scanned down, so other people have access to those holes without having to do all the scanning and figuring out which hole might go to which other hole themselves. So it's really nice to have that help to get around space a bit earlier. And most of the tools also tell you a bit about the wormhole you find. For example, which class it is and what kind of difficult rats you might expect, or what kind of inhabitants there are, if there were any kills recently. And some wormholes have other static connections, so that doesn't mean they have like constant gates to certain other systems, but there's Usually wormholes are random, so you have completely random connections, and your wormhole one day it might go to Jita, one day it might go to GE, and the next day it might go into some really bad wormhole corporation, their staging system. But what statics are is that a certain wormhole, for example, always has a connection to a C2, which is a lower middle class system, and to a high-sec system, for example. So, if you live in that wormhole that has a static to high-sec, you're always going to have a high-sec connection. And that one day it might be a MAR, one day it might be a RENS, one day it might be JITA, or some other system around them. What you can also do if you don't have Pathfinder or Tripwire or Siggy or what the other tools are called, there are other wormhole database websites out there. Just Google for wormhole database, and you can put the wormhole ID in there, and it's going to tell you a little bit about it. For example, our wormhole right now, it's called J000844. You just type that in there. I'm not sure if you can also type that just into Google directly. Yeah, just try it out if you can. And then you're going to see some information on what class it is and what kind of static connections it might have. One thing we didn't talk about yet is something special that wormholes have. You might know the phenomena generators that the Titan vessels have since some months, I think. The same thing happens in wormholes, that depending on the wormhole, you might get bonuses to, for example, armor repair, while at the same time getting drawbacks to shield. Or you might have improvements to your missile velocity, while at the same time having fall off to remote reps. So it's usually a good idea if you are planning to get into a fight to check what phenomena that wormhole has. And you can do that, for example, over through the wormhole ID. Or with some tools like Pathwire or Tripwire, it might directly show you what effects that wormhole has. I'm not sure if you can see that in-game as well. So does any one of you have probes or guns with them? All right, Adrian, what I want you to do now, launch your drones and attack me. All right, taking some damage here. And the nice thing is with wormholes, you get an aggression timer, but for wormholes, that one doesn't count. So what I can do right now is I just jump through and I'm safe. You can do that yourself if you want to get into a fight on a wormhole. Just note that you can jump through the wormhole once, and then you can jump back, and then you get a 5-minute polarization timer. So that means within 5 minutes, you can't jump through that one wormhole again. You can take any other wormhole, you're free to do that, but you can't do infinite jump back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So imagine if you aggress me on the other side like we did right now. Right now, I escaped to this side we're currently on, and if I then decided to jump back again, you could bubble me there and catch me just regular you would do in nullsec or so. So if I take that gate once again right now, I won't be able to jump back for, I think it's now another 4 minutes. That's important to keep in mind. People can always jump through wormholes, but if you take the same wormhole 2 times, you get a 5-minute polarization timer. So again, if you want to get a bit feeling of wormhole space by doing some day tripping, you can do that with Brave Hole Divers. Their Slack channel is called #brave-hole-divers. Really helpful people around there. They stage from GE Tech, and you're welcome anytime. I heard they also take salvaging catalysts, if you can only fly that. Good thing to know is if you're doing some exploration around Catch, if you find wormholes, go check if it's a C5. You can find that out through, for example, wormhole databases or Pathfinder, and then put it into Pathfinder. If you don't know where to find Pathfinder, just ask in Dojo and they're going to help you. Then go claim your 10 million ISK bounty for the wormhole. Another wormhole group we have that also I'm part of is Spoopy Newbies. That's a little brave corporation that's actually living in wormhole space. You can also day trip with us. Just ask for Spoopy and lobby on, and we're gonna help you from there. If you're thinking about maybe doing some wormhole stuff later on in a month or so, you might want to align your skill training towards that. And a really good thing to go through is bombing bombers. If you can fly a bombing bomber with a CovOps cloak, you got some pretty good prerequisites for flying in wormhole space already. That is, for example, the CovOps cloak. That's really, really helpful because it lets you fly cloaked, so no one can see you. And you can warp with it cloaked. You can go any speed that you usually do with the cloak. And it's really helpful to just move your way around. Yeah, it requires electronics upgrades 5. That might take a day. So just see it as part of some other training you do into regular doctrines. And flying bombers is also really fun in nullsec. Okay, we got a question here. How deep is too deep for day tripping? I assume you mean as in how deep into wormhole space that would go. Pretty much depends on you and how much time you want to spend there. Going into wormhole space usually takes a bit longer because you need to scan down the wormholes. Going back from it can go pretty fast. Like you just walk from exit to exit to exit to exit and you're out. What I usually do is from our staging in wormhole space, I go like 5 or 6 systems max, because from there you get a pretty big trees of system you can go to. So I would say try 4 or 5 systems, and from that point you'll get a bit of your own feeling about how deep you have to be into wormhole space. If you then decide you want to go further, go further. If you decide, yeah, maybe 1 or 2 systems into wormhole space is enough for me, that's fine too. That's pretty much a question like if you were in nullsec and you asked like, how far should I roam? Just roam how far you enjoy it, where you find some content, what you enjoy do. The good thing is with nullsec, you know, okay, some people have their staging here, I should roam to there. With wormhole space, you never really know what you get. So some days it might be the worst, spookiest wormhole alliance that you're just trying to run away from, and that you actually sacrifice rolling battleships to just fucking close that connections and be rid of them. And another day, it might be that you find a really lovely C5 rating system that you take your lovely 5 or 6 nesters into and red all day. And another day, you might find exactly those nesters and be camping on them, rallying your troops to then dive in on them and try to get a kill out of it. That's what we tried the other day. And I actually got my first wormhole kill there, but eventually, as the rats are rather scary here, they have warp scramblers, I then lost a legion there. But it really gave me the shakes there. I can only recommend it. Are there any excursion tours with spooky newbies to try some wormhole life? What you can do is some day tripping. So you can just ask us on Slack. For now, just ask in lobby and we'll invite you to some other scary secret sex parties. No, not sex parties. Those are secret. Invite you to some other channels that where you can join us for day tripping, and we'll help you to find our space. So you can just join us. And if you want to try it out, just join us, stage it like for a week from wormhole space, get a bit of feeling for it, how it is, how to live in wormhole space, if you like it or not. And then you can decide if you want to do that more, if you want to do it on an occasional schedule, or if you want to become a wormhole. So the other question we have here is, in general, how much neutral activity would I expect from a C1, C2, C3? You know, what people say about cloaky Lokis. Yeah, cloaky Lokis are Loki. It's rather difficult. Like, I don't really have a feeling yet about how much content you can expect from certain wormholes. And that's also the nice thing, that you never know what is actually in that wormhole until you find it. What I've seen is that there have been massive setups in C5s and C6. I think those are more used by the bigger wormhole alliances that can also field massive fleets of carriers and dreadnoughts and so on. The lower classes, I think, I might be wrong here, are used more by smaller groups. They sometimes have connections to HiSec, so you have some more easy logistics. The thing is, you can't see in wormholes how many people are there, so you just have to fiddle around a bit with it, go scan some stuff, and maybe you find some other people, maybe you don't. But the good thing is, there could always be someone sitting 10 kilometers away from you, just waiting to kill you. So you have to decide yourself if that's a good thing or not. We have one question here. What is the recommended ship for anomaly running in C2 solo? Unfortunately, I can't answer that question right now as I'm not writing myself. There's one thing called the Wormhole Bible that gives a description of the different sites you can encounter in wormhole space. And they also list what ships will spawn, what effects they might have, like warp scramblers or webs. And it also shows you how much DPS each wave might bring, so you know how much your ship should be able to tank. But honestly, I would just suggest asking on Slack. Just say, hey, I found a nice C2, I want to do some raiding there. What kind of ship would you recommend? And then go back and forth a bit. So you will also find a ship that matches your skills. Don't take out the blinkiest ship in the beginning. There might be some rather blinky options like 5 billion rattlesnakes. Maybe not start with that, but maybe later you can progress into it. You've probably seen some killmates from Wormhole Space. I joined one Wormhole defense operation where we flew. I was flying a Thanatos, and the other guy was flying an Apostle. So Thanatos is the Galante carrier, and Apostle is an Amar force auxiliary, basically a Logi ship, but big. I think we had 4 or 5 other ships, and we were slowly chewing through some. I don't recall the name of those ships right now, but they were really, really tanky for battle cruisers. And we later saw those killmates, they were 1.5 billion each. Like the ship with its fitting and so on was about 1.5 billion. In Brave Space, you can get carriers and dreadnoughts for 1.2 billion or less. Yeah, but to sum up your question, what kind of fit should you use in a certain wormhole? It depends on the wormhole class, might depend a bit on the effects. So I suggest find your wormhole and then talk to other people on what you should bring. Maybe in that process, you will find other people who want to join you and do the site together. Especially in C5 space, there are, I think they're called core garrisons that scale pretty well with the amount of people that join. So what you might see if you do fleet rating in nullsec, that the more people join, the less each person gets a payout at the end. The sites that Brave Hole Divers run, you can go with 3 people, you can go with 8, you can go with 10. Everyone usually gets about the same amount of hits per hour. For those listening to this later, look for the Wormhole Bible. There's all the details you will need. All right, so we're hitting about the 1 hour mark. Then I'm closing the lesson here. We'll go to bed myself and later upload the record. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, just pop me a message on Slack.